North Smithfield Town Council meeting, March 27, 2024. We're going to start with prayer and pledge. Thank you for bringing us today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our trust and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Biragad.
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Ms. O'Hara.
Here.
Mr. Ogier.
Here.
And here. Discussion by council vote or other action on payment of bills. Do we have any discussion since our last meeting?
I just want to say that, I saw some commentary out there in terms of that we weren't going to pay our bills, and I don't think it was a question of the council not paying bills. We've gone over a month without meeting before, and we've still met our obligations, and the town, I believe, will continue to meet its obligations. Having been the one that reconsidered my vote the other day, it's more or less for me to make sure that it's important that we have the right amount of money in the accounts. And, thank you, Tony, for getting me some of the answers that were asked. But, I went back and checked meeting minutes, and some of the requests that, I know I've asked personally, I've been asking for over a year. And, we're getting into the period of time where it's the council that's going to have to, make budget, if there's any changes in line items and stuff like that, it's, per the charter. And, I still think that the reconciliation piece is critical to ensure that projects are funded accordingly, and that, we are able to commit and pay those projects and bills that we have supposedly committed to. And I don't know how we could enter into any projects without knowing, part of it was the Scouters discussion when it was the $4,900. And we didn't know what line item that was going to come from. Why would we be so quick to jump in if we don't know the funding source? So it's more or less, I just want to make sure that, we can continue to pay our obligations by making sure we have timely, accurate reporting. And, thank you, Tony, for the info that you have provided. And, but, I think we still need to see, the reconciliation, and still need to see some more detailed expenditures going forward. I would just think that would be helpful.
And then just to piggyback on that, I know when we were going back and forth talking about payment of bills and how we should maybe notify you sooner. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say that that's the right answer, because being the finance director, I'm in the same role as you. Is when I have my owners' calls, they ask me questions last minute. I have to have the answer. So I would just ask that when you have the bills, before we see them, maybe you review them so you know exactly what's on them. So when we do have a question, we can get an answer and not have to wait. And, some things definitely stand out. So, whether it's reviewing with Marie or something, but I just think there needs to be a little bit more oversight on what we are paying and how we're paying it and how we got to this balance. I think it's just more oversight. Anyone else have anything?
I just wanted to double check. So the question I had last time was the $800,000 road repair, and we had like a $51,000 overage. Now it looks like we're $45,000 in the black. So is that a result of running this another 2 weeks?
That was a result of just changing the blanket PO that we have, because we've only spent year to date 35 grand.
35.8, yeah, it says on here, yeah.
So because there's that much left in encumbrance, it makes it look, so we just corrected the PO, the blanket PO, shortened it a little bit, or decreased it a little bit to reflect, so we're not in the red.
Okay, all right, so in that line item right now, with the encumbrances of 720, we still have 44,000 in change available.
Well, technically, if tomorrow we used that entire PO, then yeah. But technically, we still have almost 700,000 because we haven't used all of that. In
The
PO.
720, the
Yeah.
outstanding
Yeah.
encumbrances.
It's out there to use, but we haven't drawn down on it.
Okay,
Yeah. We've only spent 35,000 of the $800,000 budget. So technically, we have like $770,000 left in the budget for road repair.
okay. As long as we have enough to cover these things, that's
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
like I said, when it comes to any blanket PO, we internally track it. They internally track it.
Mhm.
I track it. There's a lot of eyes, especially on blanket POs, because it's a little bit tricky when it comes to reporting.
Yeah,
But we are reconsidering the whole blanket PO thing for next year.
yeah. I
We
think
wanted to try it
good
this year
idea.
because when I had come in, I had heard a lot of issues with POs and stuff like that, so I wanted to, maybe blanket POs might have been the answer. So we found another issue, which is reporting to town council and things of the like, so we have
Yeah.
to pivot.
Yeah, and according to the charter, according to state law, we're supposed to be getting monthly things, so I think the easier it is for you to get those reports done for us, however this has to be done, if it is the blanket PO has to be, go the way of the wagon wheel, then that's what we have to do. One other quick question I had that I don't know if you have the answer to is the town council contributions. And I don't know if anybody, did you get any answer? Did anyone get answers?
DJ had sent me an email, but yeah, so that's not, we don't write them a check, we just do, we just balance transfer it. We do a journal entry for it. So the 5,500, half of that's, 3,500 of it is for Pumpkin Fest. I think $2,000 of it's for Clean and Green. Every year when the council approves the budget, the very first section under town council, the bottom of that section is all the contributions. So we're just fulfilling that contribution by doing a journal entry internally.
Okay,
So it's not like a check that wouldn't cross the payment of bills. And I hadn't known that Jerry had done that. Excuse me. Hadn't known that Jerry had done that within that time period. So that's why when you guys had asked me, I couldn't figure out why it was done.
yeah, okay, so as long as we know, because I was thinking, who are we contributing to? But
Yeah, yeah.
it makes sense to do that, okay. All right, that's it for me, thank you.
While we're on the subject, I think any council member should be able to ask any department head for whatever reports they want. I think, especially since we got a couple of accountants on the council, that's great. Unless you think, though, that by approving the payment of the bills, we're going to stop bouncing checks, I don't think that we should be linking these reports, getting these reports to payment of the bills. If you think it's going to be a problem, cause a problem with being able to get them paid, absolutely. But if you think we can get them paid and still get your reports, I think that's the way we should go.
I mean, I also think that as long as we can get the answers, then we're gonna approve the bills. It's when we can't get answers and we're
You
not sure,
absolutely deserve the
and we're not
answers,
sure
yeah.
what is right, so. So if we can just go forward knowing that, we can ask questions at the meeting and, there'll be responses and not, going forward.
Okay.
Anyone else have any other discussion? Anyone want to make a motion to process the payment of bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of bills for total payment in the amount of $2,947,090.55.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Sorry. Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara?
yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes,
And yes. Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion to adjourn. North Smithfield Municipal Building Review Task Force, March 27, 2024. We're going to open with prayer and pledge. I lost my prayer. Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Biragad. Here. Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
Ms. O'Hara. Here. Mr. Ogier.
Here.
Here. Next one is open forum for non-agenda items only pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Richard Grubb.
Well, I haven't, Richard Grubb, 23 Follett Street. Although I haven't been attending meetings this year, I have tried to follow them on YouTube, so tried to keep up with decisions and discussions. I have a couple of comments. The first one, and maybe the most surprisingly disappointing one, was last meeting when you discussed the PEZA question, and Rebecca tried to get here during the scheduled time so she could speak to the question, but the agenda was changed at the last second, moved up right after executive session, which caused her to have to sit here 3 hours and wait for her turn to talk. And of course, her turn to talk came after the decision was already made. I'm sure you all agree, whether you agree with her statements or whether you agree with her position. She laid out a good, concise argument based on facts, and I was quite impressed with her effort. I hereby ask the question, and in the future, I was told that we moved it up because the lawyer was here. We were paying him by the hour, so we wanted to get it done. We know that ahead of time. We should be able to schedule accordingly. And if he needed to be first on the list, put him first on the list. She told me personally, you know, it's easy to say in hindsight, but she said she would have been here if she had known. I think that's a pretty simple thing to do. You know when the lawyer's going to be here. If you're going to change the agenda, well, I wouldn't recommend changing the agenda. I'd recommend considering the lawyer's position in the first place. Second thing I had in mind, well, in discussions in Facebook groups about what's going on with PEZA, it's an unhappy condition in town right now. And I think a lot of people are frustrated. At one point I asked in the group, does the Conservation Commission have a position on this? Because it's been going on since the 1950s. Come on. It's not a surprise to anybody. Well, it's like me. I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, the commissioner said to me, or one of the guys who answered my question said, I'm on the commission. He goes, we're in name only. There's no teeth to our recommendations. And I pleaded with him to at least come up with a position, whether you believe it was going to be followed by the town council or not, at least offer a position. And I don't know if he did or if he's going to, but I see this as a more common problem in our town. A lot of commissions feel like they're not listened to, that they have no teeth, and then when they come up with an idea, I don't know if you give it consideration or if you've already decided on what you're going to do, but I would plead with you to give them more authority because it's more efficient. You're having to take care of the building committee with the police station. That's diluting what you're doing as the town council. I'm sure you're doing a great job on it, but if you don't delegate, you're all going to be overwhelmed in the details, and it's going to be difficult for everyone. There was a mention at a previous meeting of a tangibles tax, and we've been unable to collect from I'd have to call him a scofflaw. This person hasn't paid taxes, this company hasn't paid taxes for going on decades, and we actually publicly stated we don't know what to do about it. Now, if I'm a business in town, I hear that. I hear that. Well, why should I pay my taxes if you don't even know how to collect the ones you're supposed to have? Okay, so I heard some talk about licenses and stuff like that. I would seriously recommend you consider that scofflaw is in the construction business. He's got to be pulling permits. If he's not pulling permits in North Smithfield, he's pulling permits somewhere else in the state. Get together and say, we're not going to give these permits to people who don't pay their taxes. Why should we? There's honest businesses out there doing the same work that do pay their taxes. Maybe I'm overly emotional about it, but it frustrates me when I sit home on the couch and see it. Last thing, police station. That's really the reason I came. I'm anxious to see how we've gained on correcting the things. I'm aware that you fixed the roof, and you're well aware of, you're well away on the punch list. I did want to make a correction, though, because I've heard a couple of people on this council say that the vote, which was strongly against the referendum, was a vote for rehab. I can only speak for myself, but that isn't why I voted against the referendum. I voted against the referendum because I believed it was a poor referendum. And I believe that there should be more detail in the plan to tell people where we're going. I went on a tour with the police chief, and he pointed out some things that were lacking in the station, and he talked about a communication system and a fire suppression system. I said, are those things in there? He's like, well, they're in there kind of, that there's like bundles of allotted material. I say, get the numbers, get the specifics. You asked for a priority list. I hope you got it. But that priority list should say, here's what we like, here's what we think it'll cost, right on down the line, and it becomes a simple matter. Lastly, the police station has expressed that there's an inordinate amount of problems with Walmart. It takes a lot of time, officers work, bringing people back. I'm just asking a question. Can Walmart be required to develop a holding room at Walmart? Why should we have to bring these people back to the station, only to have to release them into the public again? Take 2 officers, 2 cars, up to Walmart, bring them back, guide them in. You all know how the jail works and how they bring them in. Most of it's almost nonsense. It's just busy work. And why not have Walmart pay for part of it? And of course, that would alleviate some of the time taken at the police station. Just my thoughts. I'll check my time. 8.
Yeah.
You're way over.
7 minutes. Sorry.
Mike?
At a previous meeting, I gave you the handout of a template that I was suggesting you considered implementing with creating a building committee and getting them working on renovating the station and moving forward with the 2016. There was a rationale for everything on this list, but in 3 minutes, I could just read the list. But if you're going to discuss anything on this list, I'd really appreciate having the opportunity to speak when it's under discussion so I can explain why anything that I put on that paper it's the rationale for everything in there. And I'd like to have the opportunity to explain that later. Okay? Thanks.
Discussion by vote or other action on priority list of repairs at police station. 1, review of immediate external repairs and punch list for completion. 2, walkthrough requests by Interlocal Trust. And 3, possible extension of contract with Dubon to complete additional small brick repairs to rest a building. We want to talk about 1, the punch list for completion.
Well, we're talking about a punch list from Dubon. and what they need to do to complete the work that they've started?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, I think the only thing that they have to do now is, there was some material that infiltrated the drop ceiling when they did the roof repair. And, they were, actually, at some point, they had said that they would take that drop ceiling out because they didn't want to have DPW go in and do that and have stuff fall in their face, because it was as a result of their doing the roof repair. That has to be done. They have to put everything back, as far as I know, for the way the building looked in the front of the building. I don't know if anyone has gone past there lately, but the only thing that we have up is the fencing that was a rental fence, and that's coming down this Friday. And then there was I guess, some of the landscaping obviously needs to be redone, and then one of the sprinkler system hoses was inadvertently damaged, so that has to be replaced. So those few things in that punch list, I think they're aware of that, and tomorrow morning, I think there's a construction meeting with them, so they should have a report to us very soon.
I think a lot of people don't understand, it's not what we want done. The trust has come in and dictated, and that they're a lot and have attended some of the meetings. Because if they're not done, they cannot use that building. It's not something we planned on. When originally, at 2015, instead of building new, they went to have this building renovated, as well as a police station. Well, I think there were good intentions, but when you have old buildings, you open up those walls, you don't know what you're gonna find. And now, with the mandates as far as these entry bays for safety, back then, the walls, etc., it was in one school, I mean, you had a plug, you had a telephone, there was nothing else. There wasn't even intercoms. So all the wiring is very, very minimal. So they're going in and to provide what is mandated today, it's going on. We have nothing to do. The original contractor went through everything and it wasn't finished. So then we had to, through the trust, it was gone, they examined everything, and they would not have insured it if all this wasn't done. Chief, if I'm wrong, but that's what I understood from day one.
Yes.
And it's pure and simple. It's not, everybody, oh, why are you doing this? I said, we don't have anything. It's mandated by our insurance. If we did not keep up with it, and the trust goes there quite a bit, and they've come to some of our meetings when we've spoken about this. So, they have a vested interest, because anything goes wrong, they're gonna pay. And if it was existing, this town will pay dearly. So we're doing the right way. And if the young man who originally had the contract, and he came to Burton, very nice young man, he came to explain everything, he never worked on anything like that. He said it right here. I asked him twice. And if we go back in the notes, you'll see, have you ever worked in this type of building? He said no, and I said, a second time, at first he didn't say anything. I asked him a second time, have you ever worked in this type of work? And he said no. It doesn't mean he's not, wouldn't be good and prepared in other types of buildings, but you're going from a really neighborhood schoolhouse to a place where you need the space for everything. And when I looked at, at the old town hall, they took the two cell doors that are like you see in cowboy movies, they can just grab it. And they brought that to this building, and that's what they put up. Which-
Well, so Claire, I'm just going to interrupt you for a quick second because the next item is exactly what you're talking about, the walkthrough by the Interlocal Trust, right?
Oh, I'm
And-
sorry.
And I think that's, so the things that we've done so far to satisfy the trust have been the back staircase, the
Yeah,
antenna,
right?
the ramp, the sidewalk, the roof, the facade, okay? So now, I don't know if anybody has been in touch with the trust or if we want to ask them to come back and do, they did say that they were going to come back once we were almost at the end of this envelope project. So I don't know if anybody has reached out to them.
Yeah, I reached out to him a while ago, letting him know all the repairs that had been done,
Okay.
and if they wanted to come out and look at it. And he said, Brad Weaver, I believe.
Yeah.
He said that he would send somebody out, but he never gave a time, so I can reach back out to him again and see if they are gonna come out. Or Chief, do you know if anyone's been out to the police station just as a surprise visit?
No.
No.
I haven't spoken to anyone
Okay.
from the trust. Did you, Council Hamilton, you said you had a walkthrough tomorrow?
No, there's another construction Zoom call to go over the punch list, you know, on a Tuesday morning.
Is it on Tuesday or Thursday?
It's next Tuesday.
This Tuesday coming up, right?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry.
And on that punch list, I don't know if you failed to mention the resurfacing of the handicap ramp and the caulking against the building.
Right, and the door, and the new door, right,
Yeah,
was also installed at the top of that ramp.
what about the door?
There's a new door at the top of that ramp,
They put it in, it's
Right.
installed.
right?
Mhm.
It's
So
fine.
that's also part of this project, yeah.
Right, those two things are just something that, I didn't hear you say that. If I was there, I mean, they can see it, it looks like they started correcting where it was cracking, meaning cutting slices to prepare for another resurface.
Okay,
But that's just one other thing.
okay, good, thank you.
In any walkthrough or any, if you want to forward Brad's information to me, anytime he wants to do a walkthrough,
Well, that might be good.
I'll let
yeah.
anybody know if I'm not there to do
All
that.
right, I'll
for him.
email him again and I'll copy you on it, so that way he can
Right.
kind of get in touch with you and see when you'll be
And we're
there.
still in the process of diverting the pipes from the roof drains to the side of the building. The plumber that was going to work on it had a medical issue. So then we had the flood issue because that piping separated from the drain under the roof, and it flooded the cell area again. But I actually went up there with the representative from the roofing company because we wanted to make sure it wasn't the roof, and it wasn't.
Oh, good,
It had separated, the lead packing with the bell and spigot style piping that's there, the cast iron, it just dropped gravity, it separated, and when it really rained hard, it would flood into the cell area. But we corrected that temporarily for now, so when I have a plumber come out and look at the rediversion, they'll probably want to change that. But I don't know how extensive we want to get into it, because I think they're going to have to rip all the walls, because there's pipe chase from 2 floors going into the basement and out to the parking lot.
So, I mean, if we end up doing something inside, it would probably be the time to.
Right, so,
if we
I
did,
mean, it's not
yeah.
freezing, the problem is when it refreezes,
Yeah.
it becomes a safety issue, that's all.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I would like to address Mr. Grubb's questions at the podium at a certain time, just because a lot of times people come up if I'm not here, and they make statements like Mr. Grubb did. I have answers for that for Walmart, but I can address that, just to make sure people understand.
Do you want to address it now?
Sure. So, Mr. Grubb, as far as Walmart's concerned, yes, we have a lot of activity at Walmart. And there's certain reasons why we can't put a intake or sell area in Walmart. One, it's a private institution. Two, there's secure data lines that go from our police station into the integrated fingerprint system. So if we charge somebody with a crime, they all have to get fingerprinted. That is secured line from the police station, so they just don't give those out to any establishment. Plus, there's a proper procedure for arrest and booking, fingerprinting, like I mentioned, if there's a bail issue, if there's any other issues that we may have for questioning that is on our in-house. They do have a holding room there, So we don't take every single person that we make contact with for a crime or an incident at Walmart. We may release them from the premises if that certain circumstances, like a juvenile or something that doesn't rise to an arrest, but a no trespass order. So not every person that we have contact with, we bring back to the station. They have hired a private security firm. If you've been to Walmart, they drive around in trucks. So they're a great partner in the community. They help us out a lot with our fundraisers and community events for food drives and toy drives. We work very well with them, so there's certain things we can do and can't do. So to answer your, I hope that answers your question. That's all.
Okay.
Any more conversation regarding the external repairs or the walkthrough by the trust?
Nope.
The next one is possible extension of contract with Dubon to complete additional small brick repairs to the rest of the building. I know you received, Solicitor Igliozzi sent out an email to everyone with the quote to finish doing the pointing of the rest of the building. And we would not have to go out to bid for this because Dubon is on the MPA. So this is something that we could continue with them since they're familiar with the building. They still have equipment at the building. So, you know, we've gone this far with the building. The rest of it just looked like, you know, pretty much repointing, but on one side there was some bowing of the brick, so there would be a little bit more repair there, but it wasn't anything like the front of the building. Is that probably the best way to say it? Like over that window, the bricks, like over that stacked window, like they're starting to bow a little bit.
Oh, yeah. There's a
But-
certain amount of deterioration of the bricks, and like we did the walkthrough on the north side, it's a lot worse with stress cracks on the jambs.
Mm-hmm.
And like the return, they did the front, top 4 feet of the front, but where it returns over the main entrance, you can see it bellying out like it was before. But then on the south side of the building, there's less stress cracks and more just replacing the masonry caulking. But the cornice, I think, in my opinion, all around, it's just inevitably going to have water infiltration, freezing, cracking, and separation from the mortar like it did in the front. It did it in the front because it was the north side, so it got hit a lot worse. So I don't know what they intend on doing to that. I mean, it's beautiful, but it probably costs a lot of money to reset it, to refix it, to resolder it, and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, but I don't know what the functionality of it would be
Yeah,
while they're up there, you know?
yeah.
I don't know.
So they did give us a quote.
And they have to finish the ends, right? Is that
Mhm.
another thing on the punch list that?
Yeah, they
ex-
said, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they were just gonna kind of somehow.
Cap it.
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah.
they said. But the estimate to continue the other 3 sides of the building was approximately $85,000. So that's something that's up for discussion. I mean, we've already
Do we want them
done,
to finish it?
you know, the front of the building, so to do the rest of the building and get it, you know, kind of sealed up and not leaking or any further decay to the building. So that would be the next thing on the agenda, if there's any discussion on that.
Well, I mean, I think it would be crazy if we don't have that fixed if we know it's there,
Mhm.
first of all. It's not like, you know, all of a sudden it pops up 6 months from now. That would be different. We've actually walked around and we've seen it, and, you know, there's some area that, like the stress fractures you're saying, Chief, and, I mean, it's just gonna inevitably lead to more water infiltration. If we've already spent that kind of money on the front and the roof and the thing, and everything else, I would say for another $85,000 to finish the rest, and to make sure that we don't have water infiltration, that it is at least an obvious potential issue, right? So it's almost like prevention.
Mhm.
I just have a question for the chief. Are you satisfied with the brickwork in the front?
Yeah, I mean, for what they needed to do in the front, it suffices.
Okay,
You know, it's a curtain wall. They did wash it.
yeah, that's what I was.
They were out there for a week pressure washing
I
it.
know, it looks
Uh,
great.
So
That's
that was
really
my
nice.
question, because they had taken all the staging down, and usually when I did that line of work, before we took the staging down, we rubbed it down with
Right.
acid and did a wash down as we took the staging down. So they came back with a boom lift and pressure washed it, so they cleaned it up pretty well from what it looked like.
Okay.
The only thing I would say on the repointing, and I'm not crying wolf or anything like that, but don't be surprised on the main entrance of the building where the return goes into the second part
Yeah.
of the building. They may have to take, I would say, they might have to take that down to the relieving iron like they did in the front, because it's bulged out like it was in the front. So when they repoint something, they may stop and say,
Yeah.
revisit it and say, that we may have to take this down from the flashing from the roof and redo it, because the brick tucks under the flashing, so even though the flashing's there, it's separate in a pot, the brick tucks under it, so I don't think there's anything that would have to be changed with the flashing. So that's just something I'm thinking in advance. And on the north side that faces CT Gas or Union Square, those stress cracks on the window jambs where the glass blocking is, I don't know if they may have to do something there, but that's just something that, you're just getting deeper into a renovation or a repair, where when they just cut the joint and remortar it, is a lot simpler, a lot more, less evasive, and a lot less money. So, that's all.
So I guess that's probably something when they're into
Yeah,
it. we'll know,
I'm just saying,
right?
don't be
Yeah.
surprised, like,
Yeah.
because it's
Okay.
still pretty bad in the front, the brick, because that was the north side.
Okay.
So, do we want to make a motion to approve having them complete the additional small brickwork? To
Why don't
complete
you
the
make a
project?
motion?
I'll make a motion to extend the contract of Dubon to complete the additional small brick repairs to the rest of the building in the amount of
I think it was like 84. yeah.
85,000, not to exceed 85,000.
I'll second that.
So just for discussion, then, we don't know, right, what's gonna happen when they start fixing that. You're saying like it could end up being a much bigger job than what we think, right?
Oh, 100%. It's just, it's not new. I don't know what they're gonna entail. I know on that side, where it returns, there's a granite emblem.
Yeah.
They're on all four corners, so that, if you look at that parapet wall, you can tell it's bowled out like the front one, so.
I know,
I
I've seen
wouldn't-
it.
All I'm saying is, it's not a large piece of work. I'm just saying,
Right, right.
when you get into those kinds of things, because the cracking is visible in there in two sides of the building, so that's,
But once we start, we're all in.
that's all I'm saying.
Once you start, you're all in, you gotta, even if we come across and, it's gonna be another 50,000, you gotta do it.
When they did the quote, did anybody ask, like, if in the event you need to redo this whole thing, like you were just saying, chief, like what would the cost of that be? Like as like
I
an,
think they would have to visit it like they did the front facade, because they did test holes, and Tecton went in there with their engineers, and they determined, for cost purposes, that it was better to take it down to, not cost purposes, but structural, to that first relieving iron over that top of the windows, and go up from there instead of spot doing it, because it was all crumbly. So I don't know what is written into their contract, but it's in every construction contract for a renovation. They do change orders, I mean.
Right, yeah,
the
no, I
count-
was
You're
just
very
curious
familiar with
to
that.
get a grasp of the cost.
Yeah,
if
I'm
we
just
had
saying
asked.
that return, that return is in almost the same shape as the front of the building.
Well, can't we, first approve, get a price for doing that kind of inspection before we commit to putting the brickwork up? Can they do that same kind of drilling inspection that they did in the front? Can they do that on the side?
I don't know. I think Tecton was involved in it. Is Tecton still involved as a project manager for it?
That's.
They're the ones
another-
that
yeah,
I would
that's
ask.
another thing, yeah.
I would ask them.
Okay, so what are we doing?
I'm not saying not do it, I'm just.
No, I think it
speaking-
makes sense to go ahead and at least fix what we know we can fix.
We don't know, right?
Well, they're
We don't
gonna,
know what cost we're
No,
getting
they
ourselves
went-
into.
They went out to look, so what that 85 is based on the structural damage that they saw. Now, what the chief is saying is that there's another area that he's identified on the north side of the building that could require additional, because it's Boeing, right? Additional work. It's not a large piece, it's not like taking it down, you know, but
No, It's
I
about 10 or
think,
12
you
feet.
know, once they're there,
Yeah. No, I'll vote yes, but like Claire said, though, once we start working on it, you never know what we're gonna find.
Especially in an old house, I'm going through that now.
whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
I like
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah. You got a motion?
Yeah, I'm
Second.
not arguing. I'm just,
No, I
I'm
know.
just talking. That's
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, sorry, I have it. Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. So that's for Dubon. Okay. All right, the next one is discussion vote or other action on renovation plan and review of existing plans. So I think we put this on here because, like everyone's been saying, we do have existing plans from a prior architect. What is the thought of the committee on putting these plans, or maybe whether we have Tecton look at them, or we decide to have someone look at them, but what is the committee's thoughts on looking at these plans and seeing if it's something that, whether part of it can be used or all of it can be used, or since we're looking at renovating the building?
Well, there's two sets of plans, right? There's from, what's his name?
Studio Major.
Studio Major, and then the other one who, what was the other one? It was another set.
Secoshia.
Was it Secoshia?
Yes.
Right? So,
Yeah.
maybe look at both sets of plans, because there's positives on both of them, from what I was talking to the chief about, that maybe there's a way to look at both sets of plans and pick out the best out of each. One thing the chief was telling me about the Studio Major plans was that him and the former chief actually went around with Studio Major and worked with him to design those plans, and Studio Major put them on paper, but it was really the chief right here's recommendations as to where everything should go and the layout of the place.
Yeah, I agree. I think we know we've got things already existing for us to go out, get another architect, get something else. I think it's kind of crazy at this point, want to wrap this thing up. So I would be in favor if we're asking for opinions on reviewing both plans and having, you know, someone, Tecton possibly, review the plans and then decide what we're doing next.
So then the next decision would be, do we want to
President.
entertain, asking Tecton if this is something they'd be interested in? They are also on the MPA, so it's not something we'd have to go out to rebid on. Or do we want to start from the beginning and look at other firms? Like, what is the committee? I mean, do we just want to stick, I mean, I think Tecton's been pretty, quick to answer any of our questions. I think they've been very,
Perspective.
yeah, and every time we've asked them to come to a call or a Zoom meeting, they haven't had any problems. I think things are really moving along since we've been in this seat, so would it be the committee's choice to just ask Tecton if they would be willing to do this and kind of get a
Chief, what do you
proposal?
think?
I just have a few comments. So, Councilor Beauregard is correct. This design, I worked with Studio Major through the whole building with their architects. It's a renovation, so the walls and the rooms, when we want something to be here or there, it still has to be worked into where the supports are, the way the floor joist is running and whatnot. The only difference with this plan, and then if we move forward to a revised plan, is that EMA isn't involved in this plan anymore, and it is on Studio Major's site. And as far as the prisoner intake and cell area, that changed with the Secoshia plan, because we wanted we meaning myself and Chief Reynolds, a sally port. So that got written out of the plan, I believe, because of money or square footage. But I would highly suggest that that be brought back into the plan. The original Studio Major plan doesn't have that, and the cell and intake area was designed in a way, because I believe there's a ramp, as I'm looking at, that still had to be worked into that area. It takes up a lot of square footage and whatnot. And I believe there is a design plan Tecton did for the renovation, if my memory serves correct, for a two-story. But the Studio Major plan has everything that we walked through and was designed for. It just needs to be changed, like access to where the EMA was going to be, which is not there anymore.
So,
Go ahead.
may I interrupt you on that? So do you think it's a good idea to have them back in? And the only reason
Who?
I ask that, EMA, is because of the number.
No, I
of-
didn't say back in. I said they're written into the blueprint, but since
But
they
they're
built.
here, but do you
Yeah.
think it would be advisable to have them back in that building? Only
No.
because of the amount of grants that are available? And I know a lot of police departments have an EMA in their building for that reason. They can share things, they can share equipment, they can share technology, and an EMA can get a lot of grants that the police can't get, and vice versa.
Well, I don't know this room from looking at it here, whether it's better to have it enlarged a little to have the municipal court there and have those offices in the
Oh, okay.
municipal court.
Okay.
It's already here. The antenna's here for EMA, the radio system,
Yeah,
the center command for EMA. To move them back there, I don't think it would be.
all right, I'm just
There'd be
thinking from
costs involved. I mean,
dollars and cents.
excuse me?
I was just thinking from dollars and cents, because I know that, there's a lot of communities that intentionally have the EMA.
Right, well, you already
know.
have the square footage in all their offices and
Yeah.
the radio equipment is the most important. There's an
Right,
antenna in the back
right,
here,
sure.
and all their radio equipment, you'd have to move it all back.
Okay,
That would
right.
be more costly.
okay, yeah, okay.
It's just square footage, what we're looking at, offices, bathrooms, it just would have to be, and if we sat down and had a tabletop, you could see it. But I think that the Secosha plan had the Sallyport written into their plan. This Studio Major has, the flow for the offices, for the conference rooms, or it's all there in a renovation, so.
So you're saying the court could go to the police station
Yeah,
with those plans?
it's called the community room
Okay.
that was written in
Right.
here, and
Oh,
I
that's
remember we were trying to judge the size for a municipal court, and we've come a long way from that, meaning the amount of people that we see, the entrances, the exits, and whatnots. But I believe it's in this plan, and with EMA not being there, I believe it would be a lot easier to integrate in this system. It's not adding anything, the square footage is there.
That's good.
So, and it's all about square footage. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
I'm fine with using like a Tecton or somebody to review the plans as well. I think kind of echoing what everyone else has said, they've been pretty responsive and seem to be pretty knowledgeable of the building. Just in hearing the conversation makes me wonder why we just didn't have them combine both sets of plans in the beginning instead of going down the path that I went down. But yeah, I'd be on board with using a company like Tecton.
So then do you need a vote to authorize them to, or have you
Reach
talk
out
to
to
them
have- to
and see if
submit a
they want to
proposal.
continue
Mhm.
and submit a proposal?
Is that the council's, everyone? Yeah. Claire, what do you thought? No, I mean about Tecton.
I like it.
Okay.
And I refer to the chief because he's not just a policeman. He was a builder before. And we were very lucky. And when I saw one time, we had a meeting, and this man produced everything that he did. And I was afraid he'd walk out with it, I'd have to steal it with him because we could never duplicate the time and effort that he put into it. And I'm not just, it's a fact. And
Okay.
people next to you who were in contractors, engineers, believed in what you were doing, and they were smart men.
I just want to add one thing. I think if we're going to go down the path of like a Tecton, it would also be good to get a cost estimate as well, though. Because I don't think we ever did that on, it was always a renovation with an addition. So if we're gonna combine plans, it would be good to know what the cost
We're gonna
is.
take one thing.
Right, and what
Yeah.
the current day cost is.
Yeah.
$700 a square foot, right?
Well, the thing, I made a copy of this because, you know, a lot of numbers get thrown around. Tecton did, here's the construction cost of a renovation, square footage, what it is with contingency, with management, and there's a total. And the square footage is different for different sections, and the total at the bottom was $608.48 a square foot in 2021, June 16th. That's what the cost was. These are professionals that do it. So just the construction cost of the facility without the addition is $280.29. But when you, it's right in their report.
Yeah,
That
but that's
was a
old.
booklet that they gave everybody. It was online.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
can't use that
Yeah.
number anymore,
No,
that was
So
changed.
I get
But we
that.
have
They did this 3 times, by the way.
Estimate,
No,
right?
Through the 3 years that we
So that was the 2016 plans?
this is the spiral booklet that is this thick, that was on the
Right, was
website,
that
that everyone
Tecton's
could
design.
see, but, and I'll give you a copy of it, just to look at. But I'm just saying, these numbers are, there's different parts of the project, management, contingency, brick and mortar, and they have the addition. So if you just want to.
Yeah, I was just saying if we were combining plans or we were gonna alter Tecton, what Tecton had designed,
What,
then it would make sense to just figure out, I know, I'm
right, so
very
what I was
familiar with the
told,
cost
what I was
breakdown.
told in the bidding world or construction world, design build, is the prints are stamped, some are conceptual, some are working
Right.
prints that you can bid on, like we talked about that day in the backyard. The print, I did receive a set of prints actually from Mike Clifford, and they're stamped prints, and I believe in the bottom that they're not for bid use, but I believe they can be for bid use if they're recertified, and then you get intellectual property, where, you know, that cost a lot of money to develop, they're not just gonna give
Yeah.
that away, so then you have another architect company.
Oh, we
And
know
I'm
about that.
speaking just as a novice, that, okay, and now if we're talking about changing the EMA section or adding the Sally Port, which I highly suggest, it's up to the building committee, and changing maybe the layout of the intake and cell area just to be a better flowing, because I went through that with Tecton, because we did have the Sally Port, and that design was a little different. You would have to spend some money redoing, you know, the engineering and and where the walls and everything goes.
Well, I
So-
think that's what
And then
we-
getting it stamped and getting someone to bid on
Yeah.
it. But they did the bid process,
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that can be done on a conceptual design with a projection.
Right.
So that's all there with, I know
We
Mr.
have a-
Grubb, the fire suppression, all that was in the report. It was all in the bid project, so.
Yeah, which is why we don't want to go with someone else. Do you want to?
Does anyone want to make a motion to open it up?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, my God. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call. Mr. Biragad.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Claire?
No.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
And yes.
What I
Miss-
wanted to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Please.
No more than 3 minutes, please.
Oh, God.
Well, less.
I've heard so many things that were stated that were incorrect, seriously. First of all, you've got to understand that Tecton, that Secocia never did a renovation of the building. Tecton did blueprints and specs for a $900,000 fix-up.
Who did?
Secocia. They never did a renovation plan like
I have it on thumb drive if you want it.
it's a conceptual plan though, Chief.
Well, I didn't say it was I just said
Okay,
it was
yeah,
designed,
yeah,
I didn't say it
yeah.
was a bid ready. I just said their design had a Sally Port, and that's the
Yeah.
only one I've seen with it,
Right.
other than Tecton.
Right.
And Studio Major didn't, that's all I said.
But the problem is, you see, you paid X number of dollars for the bid specs, and they are used for bid specs. There were 2 pages on there that were stamped not for bidding purposes.
Right.
But the rest were all for bidding purposes, the specs. We used them. I mean, we don't have to bid with them. But if you go to Tecton now and start screwing around with this, and you can't use those plans, then you're gonna end up you were spending $1 million to pay Tecton, $1.2 million, to draw design plans. You get it? So if you have design plans saved now that the chief was satisfied with at the time, and I think he doesn't have a problem if he's working with Studio Major continually, do you? Because I thought you said you didn't when I met with you.
Well, what I told you is that the Sallyport and the EMA thing would
Right,
have to
right.
change.
Which
Yeah,
can be
they're not
added
building
on.
it, they're just designing it per our design.
Yeah, but and so all you'd have to do is modify the plans for that, and then you save yourself big bucks for the good old design bid specs plans. So, and you can't use Tecton's plans for the renovation, because they didn't do a simple renovation of the existing building. They did a renovation and an addition of what, 9,000 square feet or something.
7,821.
So those plans are not the same. You're comparing apples to oranges.
Well, we said we're going to look at the existing plans, which is Studio Major, right, and Sakosha. So that's what we're.
Okay,
gonna
well,
do.
I didn't get that, because I heard Mr. Strozier there
No,
saying,
no.
oh, let's bring Tecton in.
We-
I wasn't the one that brought up Tecton.
No,
Councilor
I brought
Hamilton
up-
and President
Right.
Elves
You
also
did-
brought him up.
You did say you'd be comfortable with
I would be
Tecton.
okay using them under certain
Using.
circumstances.
Yeah.
They have all the criteria. They're on the MPA,
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
designed police stations. It doesn't need to be them. It can be anybody.
But do you understand you're gonna have to pay for all the design plans over again?
That's not what he said.
I'm not saying that. I know you've
just-
said that I've asked for 4 sets of plans and I've been on the council for 3 terms. I've only been on the council twice and I have not asked for 4 sets of plans. I have only asked that we looked at a single-story building. That was the only request that I asked. And I am only saying to take the 2016 plans or whatever plans from Sakosha and Studio Mayher and see where there can be reconciliations and there can be efficiencies. And I wonder why we didn't do that in the beginning and just had the MBRTF do that from the start and say, here's your renovation. So those plans are still from 2016. They may need to be brought up to code. I know the state is on 2018 codes now, but those are just things that any architect could look at. That's all.
Right.
But I don't know what the chief was saying about proprietary rights. I don't know if you can use those bid
That's a
specs.
question
That's
for the
why we're gonna-
solicitor.
That's why
So,
we have to
and I
find
think the other problem is, it's going to be much simpler if you use, Mr. Rami, I don't care about the building of it, if you go with whoever you want for that, but just to modify those plans to include the Sallyport would be much more economically feasible through Mr. Studio Major. And I don't have any relationship with Studio Major here, okay? I'm not invested in it. I just know that everybody said fine 2016, and then all of a sudden he's lousy, and you can't use him because you have to have a specialist. But this is a renovation, and I can see needing a specialist if you do a new construction. Maybe then you'd want Tecton. But a renovation, he's telling you, the rooms are confined. You don't have a lot of options there. And Sakosha, I don't think Sakosha, the only drawing that Sakosha did, Chief, was conceptual. They're not, it's not building plan designs. It's
Right, I
conceptual.
have it here on USB.
Right. So, I mean, that's what we're asking now. What do we want to do? I mean,
Why don't we just ask the solicitor if there's proprietary rights on the plans, which I don't know if there would or would not be. I'm not a judge or a legal person on that. So a lawyer, so I would just say, why don't we just start asking if that can be doable? I'm assuming, Tony, you have to weigh in as the purchasing agent if there's any restrictions or criteria. And I think we go from there. If there's no restrictions, then I think we can use whoever we want.
okay.
So we could have the person who did it, we could have, what's his name, Eric Army, follow through with the revisions that the chief is talking about with the Sallyport. And then get a figure, because we don't know how we're gonna pay for these things yet. We know we were fortunate, we got another grant, and we got $128,000 for HVAC grant, but we're still nickel and diming, so I think what we need to do is get a figure. If we have to back into it, okay, and if we have to unfortunately do it piecemeal, we might have to, but we have to get a figure before we can make a decision, right, I think?
My only concern with Eric Army, and I've said it before, is he has not designed a police station.
Yeah.
And that's a valid concern, because you look at Attleboro, they had a firm that did public safety complex. You look at Lincoln, you look at Cumberland, they all hire firms with public safety experience. So the question for the council is, do we want to just treat it as like a historical building renovation, which maybe you don't need the specialty? Or do you want to look at it as the police station for the next 20 years? And I just don't want us to be in a situation where maybe we miss something.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
I would
That's my only
Yeah,
concern.
and I see your point. I think the thing is, though, that we've kind of beat this
Right, I
to
agree.
death. You know, the chief and his chief preceding him and 17 members of the community met for years, literally, to do it. And, you know, this was, there was no stone left unturned, with the exception of Sallyport. And we had to cut that back because that was expensive. But if that's important, that's important, and we should factor that in.
For safety of our police personnel and,
It's
So
best,
we're
it's,
bringing in-
what it's called is best practices, and I know Councilman Ogier is not questioning, but why didn't we just look at all these plans and come up with a plan? And I'm not speaking for Tecton, I'm not going to bat for them, but when they were brought in, we had an interview with a few companies, and they were chosen because they built public safety buildings. With that said, I had to give them statistical data for the last, from my memory, I think 15 or 20, 15 years of arrests, just statistical data on our activity. So what I think what they did is they looked at it and then looked at best practices as far as square footage, how big the cell area should be, you should have a sally port, how big that should be. Then they bounced it off me, like, do you think this is okay? They said, this is how many lockers that you would need now and in the future for a modern building. This is what you would need for a women's locker room. This is what you need for a men's locker room. So a lot of that stuff was not guesstimated, but it was estimated based on best practices nationwide on police buildings and size population and whatnot. And you'll find differences in cities all across New England. This Sutton's this size, and Eastern Mass is that size, and Forster and Gloucester aren't like North Smithfield. So that's where their plan was developed with their computer program or their suggestions of what a police building size and shape. But we were involved, or myself was where do you want the sergeant's office? Where do you want the lieutenant's office? And with Studio Major, that's what we did. And the thing with Studio Major was they never did build a police station, but they were renovating a police building, to conform with whatever we wanted as a police station. So, and I'm not taking anything away from Studio Major. And I said this right from the beginning with this building committee is my only suggestion and wants or what I think should be done is just get a contractor who's going to build it, one that builds public safety buildings. Because there's going to be wrenches in the works with even a brand new project. And with renovation, it's even more. So that's all.
Okay, so where are we right now? We want to make sure that the plans are not proprietary, or they are proprietary, and we're going to check with the solicitor, find out if those can be reviewed, and then who's going to review them?
and of these people here, there's only, what, 3 out of the 4 that have rehabbed or built new facilities, fire departments, and
What is your question?
out of the companies we've mentioned tonight,
Yes.
only 3 have been building or renovating fire departments or police departments, or a combination of, they've done a combination of both. And they have the expertise in it.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I think you should check on what the propriety of the documents, because I know this happened with RGB, I believe. There was something to do with their design, because they first started out,
Okay, well then,
and then
that
it
is
went-
what we should do.
right? So I think that's your first step, once you get that cleared up and
Yes.
revisit it and say, this is what we're gonna do.
Right.
All right, so I'll find out from the solicitor, and then we can decide if maybe the next meeting we can have in a couple of weeks, and we can decide where we want to go from there with review of the plans.
And in the meantime, we can make sure that that walkthrough is done by the trust, because this is what really has been driving this project, has been their request for liability reduction, right? So let's make sure they come see how wonderful we are now.
And
I agree with you. far as Studio Major not building police station, but there's two things on that. Number one, the chief and the former chief worked with them, they laid out the floor plan. So, all we're doing, we're not making I don't feel we're making a police station. I think we're doing the best we can to make them as good as possible in the school building. It's not a police station, it's never gonna be a police station, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to lay it out as they would like it, make it as safe as possible. I still feel we're putting lipstick on a pig, but that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna try to make it as comfortable and everything as we can, and as workable for the police. It's not a police station, it's a school.
Right, and I guess the only thing is just, as we've heard, since we became the MBRTF, I heard Tecton say, well, there's certain thresholds for renovation versus, to the extent to which you can do, and it still qualifies as a renovation. I know they've said in the past, that building, and I know I've spoken to other architects on this, so I know it's true, you need to survive a Cat 5 storm or a natural disaster. I don't even know if that school, well, the police station right now would. Maybe it would in a renovation, but those are just things that I would want. That's where I think some of that experience comes in. So that's the only reason I think that it has some merit to have
Yeah,
somebody.
and I
but
think
get
you're
what
right,
saying.
on the renovation versus a new building, there are different standards and ability to grandfather in, you're not required to do certain things if you're doing a renovation, those things. So we have to be very clear, and I think you're right, and be very transparent with people that, we're providing, as you said, the best safety building that we can do with what we've got. So,
Right.
good discussion.
All right, so I'll reach out to solicitor, and then I'll have him email everyone that information, and then that way we can maybe schedule another meeting in a couple of weeks. That way we can continue on this.
Sure, you want to do that while we're here? Or no?
Sure.
Up to you. So today's 27. Well, we don't have a town council meeting on the 1st. So we could do one if Wednesday works. Does Wednesday work? Or everyone on the 3rd or the 10th?
I'd say the
I think that week is
10th,
I can't do the 10th, unfortunately.
or that week.
Yeah,
whole
that week is fine.
If I remember correctly, I think that's what Joanne had said. There's a reason why you guys didn't push it to like Wednesday or Thursday, as far as elections were concerned. I would just check with her.
Maybe we could do like the 8th,
Set a meeting next week.
maybe like the 8th of
All
that
right,
week.
so maybe I'll just
Yeah.
have Joanne send down an email and check, like, with some dates of, between those 2 weeks, the week
Like
of the 8th and
The
the week.
8th is good
Yeah,
if you want to do a
The 8th will
Monday.
work.
Does a Monday work on
For what?
April 8th? What?
The 8th is tough.
Oh,
yeah, I was just saying that week.
it's his birthday, though.
Oh, yeah, so we don't want to do it.
We gotta have a cake.
We're gonna have candles.
Till the
It's gonna be a
9th.
whole fiasco.
Or we could just do it before the council meeting on the 15th,
Okay, what other date?
I'd say the 9th, or sometime.
Tuesdays, I'm kind of jammed up.
Well, the
How about
Wednesday,
The
the 10th?
11th?
The 11th, I can't do the 10th, but I can do the
The
11th.
11th? I can do the 11th.
I can do the 11th.
Yeah, the 11th works.
All right, the
That's next
11th.
vacation week, is it?
I think it's the week after.
I
That's
think
the
it's the
week
week after.
All right.
Okay, so Tuesday,
April
I mean
11th.
Thursday, April 11, at what time? Oh, we have to see if there's anybody in here, right?
Oh,
6:45?
Yeah,
yeah.
Can we send them somewhere else?
or
Okay,
7.
we can double check. I can double check with Joanne to
Yeah,
make
the
sure
one-
there's no
that
one
time's
in
fine.
here on Thursday, the 11th. Another committee?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll do that. So,
All right.
unless you hear from me.
so that pretty much, I think that brings us down to the end, right?
Yep.
Anyone have anything else to discuss regarding the police station? Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second?
A motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Wait.
Oh,
So we're not We're not talking about the energy efficiencies.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
What do we?
good
what-
I mean,
catch.
if we have nothing to update, it's fine.
So
No, we
discussion,
do,
vote,
though.
or other action on a
Let's
update
just get it
of
to
grant for
stand up, and
energy
then we'll see how it goes.
efficiency at police station. Is there anyone here to talk about it?
Yeah, well, we have the $128,000 grant that
Is-
came in for energy
Yeah, like,
upgrades, HVAC, air conditioning, whatever. That's something that we got.
Does anyone
weeks
have any
ago?
updates on that? No? No? Okay.
So
No? Okay, but we
continue
did, we got it.
Yeah, we'll continue.
$128,000, and we can use it for
It's all for HVAC.
HVAC,
Yeah.
yeah.
We just need to find out if there's a deadline on that.
Hmm.
Okay.
So, huh?
Would Mark know? Did the planner write it?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think the planner wrote it, I'm not sure.
All right, so I'll email him too. Okay. Anything else? All right, so you want to go back down to adjourn? We have a motion and a second.
Could I just ask a quick question? Going back a little bit for the cleanup that Dubon's doing with the front part of the sprinkler, are they handling all that, or am I gonna have to contact our vendor? We deal with a vendor right now for the sprinkler system.
Last, when Rebecca was here,
They
she
should pay
said
for
that
it.
was,
They would
that
have-
was
they
in their
ruined it.
contingency.
So they'll take care of that lumen seating?
That
Yeah,
is-
and
that
the
is what we
bushes
were
and-
told.
Replant
Told,
and
yeah.
reset that monument.
Yeah, so, and that might be another thing too, is we probably have to reach out to Dubon and probably coordinate them moving the sign.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna take that at Public Works, so we have a spot for that. I'm under the impression that they're gonna bring their crane in and bring it down to us.
Did you talk to them?
I have not talked to them. I don't have a contact for them.
All right, I'll reach out to him.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
I'll reach out to him and copy you on it, so that way you two can then continue the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
And the new lighting on the outside of the building, the floodlights,
Yeah, we
pretty
had
good.
3 new LED security lights put on 3 sides of the building. They've been out for quite a while.
yeah, it illuminates quite nicely. Very nice. Okay,
Okay.
folks, making progress.
Yeah? All right, anything else? Try it again? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.